Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I'm going to bring you my August wrap-up. In the month of August, I did not read as much as I had hoped, but I finished a total of 5 books, and I read half of a 6th book. So I'm just going to get started. And the first book that I finished in August, I read on my Kindle, and that is Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. This is the first book I've read by Sarah Waters, and I really liked it. I will definitely be picking up more of her work in the future. This book is sort of a Dickensian kind of story. It felt very much like one of a Charles Dickens setting in like the grimy part of Victorian London. It's basically, I don't even know how to describe this book. It's basically a very twisty-turny mystery between these two girls. One is raised as a lady in a like manor house just outside of London, and she's raised by her uncle, and it's a very like cloistered kind of life that she's lived, and he's a very strange man. And the other girl was raised in the middle of Victorian London in the bad part of town, and she's raised by thieves and a woman who runs like a baby farm out of her house where she takes in people's babies that they don't want and then she gives them away. It's kind of a weird setting. So the girl who's raised among the thieves is given this proposition that if she goes to help this man called Gentleman trick this girl out of her fortune, then he'll give her some of the money and they'll both be rich. And so she goes to become this girl's lady-in-waiting, and interesting things happen. This book kept me on my toes. I did not know what was happening. And there were several moments where I was just like, wait, what? It was just so twisty, and I never quite knew where the story was going, which was really fun. I enjoy a story where I'm just sort of taken off guard and I have no idea what's happening, but in a good way. So I would definitely recommend it. I will definitely be reading more. Sarah Waters, I gave this 4 stars. The next book that I read was for the Read Like a Mom book club, and our choice for the month of August was The Soul of an Octopus, a surprising exploration into the wonders of consciousness by Cy Montgomery. This book was also kind of a surprise. I had heard that it was really interesting, and I've read Cy Montgomery before, so I knew that I liked her writing style, but to be honest, I didn't expect to love this book as much as I did. I found it completely and utterly just captivating the whole way through. I was fascinated not only just by the information about how octopuses think and behave and more about them in general, but just the inner workings of the aquarium and what goes into caring for these animals. And oh, it was just so good. And learning more about her adventures in scuba diving and seeing octopuses in the wild. And I found it fascinating. I really want to go to the aquarium very badly. I like desperately need to go. But I want my kids to read this book too, so I'm going to have my teens all read it, and then we're all going to go to the aquarium. And it's going to be so much fun. I'm excited. I love, too, the fact that this took place almost entirely in the New England Aquarium, which is the aquarium that we're closest to, so we get to go and see that. I mean, we've been there before, but now kind of knowing more about it and more about the animals that live there, I'm excited. I want to go so bad. So I gave this 4.5 stars. The next 3 books that I read read specifically for the biology in grade 5 that I'm changing. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to have more information coming up in the next week because I'm just about finished changing that out. So I'm going to be using Real Science Odyssey, and I'm adding in living books to kind of make it more Charlotte Mason in style and literary. So the 3 books that I read specifically for that, I mean, I did read more books than this, but they're like children's picture books, so I'm not going to count them in my reading wrap-up. But the ones that were a little more meaty that I read were Invincible Microbe, Tuberculosis by Jim Murphy, which is really, really interesting. It's a sort of biography about tuberculosis. Like, tuberculosis is the main character in this story, which was really strange, and it doesn't sound like it would be all that interesting, but it was fascinating. This book goes into a lot of information about how medicine has changed over time, how sanitariums came about, and how people believed they were becoming healthy by doing these things, and what really helped to cure tuberculosis, and more about like the evolution of bacteria and how this microbe like became a super bug kind of. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting, and Jim Murphy has a way of taking a subject and like giving it more life, sort of. I don't know how to explain that, but it's a really interesting book, and I recommend that. I gave it 3.5 stars. The next 2 books I read are both graphic novels, and the first one is Evolution, The Story of Life on Earth by Jay Hosler. This book was great. I read The Last of the Sandwalkers year before last, I think. Really enjoyed that book. It's also a graphic novel, and I'll link it down below if you want to learn more about it. But this book is so interesting. He wrote a book about evolution from the perspective of aliens learning more about life on Earth and how that life on Earth has evolved over time and how it's still evolving. I thought it was really, really well done. I really enjoyed the interactions of the 3 aliens that are learning about Earth, and their kind of like side banter was really fun, but the information on evolution was really solid, really, really interestingly written, and it covers like just about everything you'd ever want to know about evolution. So if you are an adult who doesn't know a lot about it but you want to know more, this is a great place to start. If you want to give this to a child, it's I'd probably say it's for ages like 10 and up, because it is a little bit meaty and it might be a little over the head of a younger child, but it's still really, really well written and really interesting. The pictures are really cute. I just really enjoyed it. And I gave this 4.5 stars. The last graphic novel that I read this month is Primates, The Fearless Science of Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, and Barude Galdikas. I think I'm saying that right. And it's written by Jim Ottaviani and Maris Wicks. This book left me with mixed feelings. I really wanted to like it. I love the people that it covers in this book. I've always found Jane Goodall and Diane Fossey to be really fascinating people. I actually don't think I knew anything about the other woman, Barude Galdikas. I've never heard of her, which was surprising. So I kind of want to learn more. But this book is sort of meant to be like a graphic novelization of who each of these women are and how they're connected and how they came to become scientists and like experts in their field, which on the surface is exactly what I wanted, and I was really excited for it. But what I ended up with was this sort of a strange book. She says the author says at the end that they ended up a lot of this is fictionalized. So now I don't know what really happened and what was fictionalized. Like, I'd like to know more, like, what was true and what wasn't, and that's never really covered. It's also kind of confusing because you never quite know which character's voice you're reading from, especially when the 3 women are interacting together. It's sort of confusing. The voice is a little bit unclear, so that was troublesome. Overall, I think it was an interesting book, and I mean, I don't think it was a bad book by any means. And I would absolutely want to hand this to, especially a young girl who is maybe interested in science and wants to know more. I think this is a great, like, motivator. It definitely was inspiring how these women who had no education in their field to begin with, but just a passion for it, became an expert in their field, and then they became educated, which I thought was just really interesting. I think it could be a motivating book for someone who really wants to know more about how to do science and field work specifically, because That's not really something that you often find in literature, like the how-to kind of, or the inspiration for doing something as kind of boring as field work, because unless you're really passionate about it, it's like basically sitting outside quietly and watching for hours. So, I don't know, I found it really interesting, but also a little bit disappointing, so I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting out of this book, but I think I wanted just a little bit more. Also, the way they kind of like leave the epilogue, they don't really explain what actually happened to Dian Fossey, which I understand if this is geared toward children, that they may not want to go into great detail there, but I feel like they kind of left it very ambiguous and vague. Like, you know, something bad happened because they show her that she died, but they don't really explain what. So, I don't know. I had a few issues with the book. Overall, I gave it like a 2.75, almost 3 stars. But, you know, for what it was, I did like it. I just wish it was a little more. And finally, the book that I did not finish this month, but I'm hoping to finish very soon, like in the next like week and a half-ish, since I have like 8 days before the movie comes out. But I have been working my way through it slowly. I am more than halfway at this point. I'm on page 667, but oh my goodness, it's just, I don't have time. I didn't have the time to devote to this month that I wanted to. I've read it faster in the past, but then I'm like, yeah, but back then I had less responsibilities, so of course I read it faster. So yeah, I'm hoping to finish this soon because I have read it before, but I wanted a refresher before the movie, and I'm going to see the movie like opening night because I'm dying to see it. I've been waiting, I feel like my whole life for this movie to come out, so I'm very excited about it. So I want to finish the book before the movie. I think I can do it. It comes out on the 8th, so I have 8 days. I'm hoping to get it done. We'll see what happens. So this kind of ate up a lot of my reading time, which is why most of the books that I read this month were on the short side. So that is what I read in the month of August, which I feel went by like crazy fast. I don't know. I feel like the month of August was like half a month for some reason. It definitely went faster than I anticipated it going. But anyway, what did you read in the month of August? I would love to hear about it. Please share down below in the comments and we can chat. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.